In Kamaha Elohim Adonai, ve'en kema'asecha, Malchutecha malchut k'olamim, u'memshaltecha b'chodor v'ador. Adonai Malach, Adonai Malach, Adonai Imloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai oz la'mo yiten, Adonai yevarech et amav shalom. Adonai, Adonai, Erachum v'chanun, Erech Apayim, V'rav chesed, ve'emet, Notzer chesed la'alafim, Nosei avon v'fesha, Nosei avon v'fesha, E'akav enakeh.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayhi achar hadevarim ha'ele v'ha Elohim nisa et Avraham. Vayomer elav Avraham vayomer hineni. Vayomer קח נא את בנך את יחידך אשר אהבת את יצחק ולך לך אל ארץ המוריה והעלהו שם לעולה על אחד ההרים אשר אומר אליך. וישכם אברהם בבוקר ויחבוש את חמורו ויקח את שני נעריו איתו ואת יצחק בנו ויבקע עצי עולה ויקום וילך אל המקום אשר אמר לו האלוהים. ביום השלישי ויישא אברהם את עיניו וירא את המקום מרחוק. ויאמר אברהם אל נעריו שבו לכם פה עם החמור ואני והנער נלכה עד כה ונשתחווה ונשובה עליכם. ויקח אברהם את עצי העולה וישם על יצחק בנו ויקח בידו את האש ואת המאכלת וילכו שניהם יחדיו. ויאמר יצחק אל אברהם אביו ויאמר אבי ויאמר הנני בני ויאמר הנה האש והעצים ואיה עשה לעולה. ויאמר אברהם אלוהים יראה לו עשה לעולה בני וילכו שניהם יחדיו. ויבואו אל המקום אשר אמר לו האלוהים. ויבן שם אברהם את המזבח ויערוך את העצים ויעקוד את יצחק בנו וישם אותו על המזבח ממעל לעצים. וישלח אברהם את ידו ויקח את המאכלת לשחוט את בנו. ויקרא אליו מלאך אדוני מן השמיים ויאמר אברהם אברהם ויאמר הנני. ויאמר אל תשלח ידך אל הנער ואל תעש לו מאומה כי אתה ידעתי כי ירא אלוהים אתה ולא חסכת את בנך את יחידך ממני. ויישא אברהם את עיניו וירא והנה איל אחר נאחז בסבק בקרניו. וילך אברהם ויקח את האיל ויעלהו לעולה תחת בנו. ויקרא אברהם שם המקום ההוא אדוני יראה אשר יאמר היום בהר אדוני יראה. ויקרא מלאך אדוני אל אברהם שנית מן השמיים. ויאמר binishbati neum Adonai, ki ya'an asher asita et hadavar hazeh, velo chasachta et bincha et yechidecha. Ki varech avarechecha, v'harba arbe et zaracha kechochvei hashamayim, v'chachol asher al sfat hayam, vayirash zaracha et sha'ar oivav, v'hitbarechu v'zaracha kol goyei haaretz ekev asher shamata bekoli. Vayashov Avraham el ne'arav vayakumu vayelchu yachdav el be'er shava vayeshev Avraham biver shava.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata betuchenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
The following names for the Mi Shebeirach were received by Emmanuel Congregation before September 16, 2020. Please share additional names in the chat. Laura Keena Aronson, Barbara Berman, Harvey Baller, David Burchett, John Cameron, Figa Sora Bachaya, Carol Cohen, Linda Danielson, Francine Fields, Eslyn Garb, Royce Gardner, Sandra Gagios, Carter Glass, Don Grandolfo, Mimi Harris, Warner Hyman,
Jane Herron, Priscilla Hill, Harold Katz, Molly Klee, Anne Marie Kuleza, Robert Langfelder, Louise Leigel, Roy Lloyd, Gerald Marks, Stephen Melnick, Lauren Meserve, Deborah Miller, Jimmy Miller, Nikki Moulton, Moshe Ben Chava Vanatan, Jordan Nierenberg,
Nicole Newcomb, Larry O'Neill, Don Olson, Mark Perlman, Rodney Qualls, Alan Sager, Kristen Rau Skinner, Maria Sklyanskaya, Linda Stahl, Tali Stein, Michael Van Buren, Francie Volinsky, Virginia Wharton, Nachum Feivel Ben Gedalia Umasha. We hold these people, those named in the chat and the unnamed in our communities, in our hearts, as we sing the Mi Shebeirach together, as led by Jeff, Spencer, and Sammy Tweedy.
Mi Shebeirach Avoteinu V'kor Havracha Le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi Shebeirach Imotenu V'kor Havracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
goodness. A happy ending. Phew. Reality really worked against this baby elephant. Gravity, not on his side. The hungry lioness, not on his side either. The baby's mama, on his side, but unable to sort out her little tyke. The baby's aunties, too thirsty, too pushy, and too eager to poke their bewildered sister with their sharp tusks. At least they didn't let the lioness get too close to their supine and wiggly nephew. But the matriarch, our superheroine, yes, she arrived just in time. Her elephant sense engaged and locked in, able to save a distressed calf with a single twist of her trunk. Well, not quite that easily, but after a bit of persistent trial and error, she got the job done, didn't she? And her superpower, you may ask? Zoologists would call it empathy. A 180 million year old expression of brilliant mammalian evolution wrapped up in an exquisite act of elephant empathy. Empathy in action. Scientists tell us that whatever dangers lurk before these baby elephants don't always draw out their distress signals, leaving the youthful Pilim quite vulnerable. So their guardian elephants prepare themselves for such eventualities by paying close attention to the young'uns over time, gathering a feel for how the calves do respond to danger when it arrives, learning to anticipate their needs for safety and security, and acting proactively to minimize any stress. We might say the guardian elephant has an inner radar, a capacity to detect, understand, and even feel what the baby elephant is thinking or feeling in the present, or might think or feel in the future. Unsurprisingly, experts describe this behavior as quite sophisticated, and few species are known to be so empathetic. So, given the hard times in which we live, we human beings could use a little more empathy ourselves. We could give a little more of it too, probably a lot more. And given we're one of those few species that can do so, and given the pain and the loss as well as the struggle and injustice that mark our times, we have much work to do. Put in Jewish terms, empathy is an exercise in emotional and spiritual awareness that we're all created b'tselem Elohim, in God's image, a demonstration of cognitive discernment that we all have intrinsic worth. Here, empathy becomes a solid foundation for our morality. A whole lot of good can come from the practice of empathy, especially as both the pandemic and this intensified pursuit of racial justice summon us to remake society. Where there is social dislocation or broken relationships, empathy draws us together with a spirit of connection and healing, even in virtual space. Where there is self-obsession, empathy draws us out of ourselves and into new and varied perspectives of family, friends, and community. Where the call is for significant social transformation, empathy initiates the courageous honesty and deep moral imagination so essential for fundamental change. But that said, unfortunately, empathy is not a panacea. The deficit of empathy in our nation, an empathy gap that exists anywhere from the highest levels of our government to our neighborhood grocery store. And in this empathy gap, we enumerate a seemingly endless list of transgressions one that reads like our Shamnu, our confession of sins, ableism, ageism, anti-Semitism, civil rights violations, classism, disenfranchisement, dishonesty, entitlement, excessive force, global warming, homophobia, human rights abuse, hunger, ignorance, inequality, Islamophobia, misogyny, murder, neglect, political polarization, poverty, racism, selfishness, sexual misconduct, violence, and xenophobia. Oh, the injustice of it all, and the unfairness, and the hardship, all because of our inability to comprehend emotionally or cognitively someone else whose life is substantially different, be it culturally or socioeconomically or racially or otherwise. All because too many people don't do or say enough or anything at all. And with these failures of empathy come breakdowns in public policy and compassionate leadership, the social fabric becoming threadbare. So then, how is there such an empathy deficit if empathy is not so hard to embrace? What must we do to fill that deficit? Whether it's outcomes like compassion or cooperation or sensitivity or reciprocity, empathy is a crucial engine for goodness in our lives. But the truth of the matter is that empathy is harder to practice than perhaps we'd like to admit. And that's because of evolution. Scientists tell us that our evolutionary background makes it actually harder to identify with outsiders. In fact, human beings are evolved more to hate our enemies than to love them, evolved more to ignore strangers than to welcome them, and evolved more to distrust those who are different than to celebrate their intrinsic worth. So, whatever life we want to create, whatever world we want to construct, whatever reality we must rebuild, we have to be especially mindful of the natural tendencies that keep us from exercising empathy, and more broadly, our greater moral potential. And then we must counteract these tendencies with good choices. The good news is that we always have a choice. We always have a choice. We must meet evolution with an empathy revolution. Empathy must become a revolutionary practice that transforms our lives and changes the world around us by generating a deep cultural shift that makes empathy as commonplace as looking both ways before we cross the street, as one sage says. That creating a common space for people to expand their empathic awareness and explorations of how others see the world becomes our imperative. So how does this empathy revolution work? Empathy through acts of faith and acts of outrospection. Abraham, Isaac, and the Akedah. 3 times the use of Hineni, I am here, I am present, happens in a 19-verse text. One time Abraham answers Hineni. It's as if God has aroused him from a sound sleep. Another time Abraham responds, Hineni. He's in some kind of trance. But a third time Abraham answers, Hineni beni. I am here, my child. Let's listen to what Rabbi Shalman has to say.
So these 2 Hinenis, at the beginning of the story and towards the end, share a quality. In both instances, Abraham is in a world of his own, first asleep, then in the intense preoccupation with the impossible deed. And in both instances, he replies to the unseen, "Here I am." But there is a third Hineni. It's almost in the middle of the story. The two have left the servants and the donkey. They are carrying the implements for the sacrifice. They've journeyed 3 days, the story says, and not a word is recorded of what may have passed between them. If anything, surely they camped at night. Surely there must have been some kind of communication, though we can fully understand that Abraham may have been totally withdrawn into himself in the grievous anticipation of what he alone knew had to be done. But here now, father and son are alone. They are climbing the mountain, and the silence can no longer be borne. Isaac now asks, "Ovi, my father," and Abraham says, "Hineni beni, here I am, my son." What a different Hineni that is. Now it is an answer to someone he sees, someone with whom he walks, his own flesh and blood. Now he cannot simply stand there and hear what he has to do or be prevented from what he has to do. Now he has to turn and face the one who asks, who addresses him. And he says, "Here I am, my son." No evasion possible, none intended. "Here I, your father, am for you, my son. I am here. I am taking full responsibility for being here. I answer you. I respond to you. You are calling, I will answer." And while the answer that he gives in the story is still evasive, it is clear to anyone who hears it that Isaac understands far more than what Abraham says. That Isaac now is ready to be, "I can't help myself. I am your father, you call me, my son. Here I am, here I stand. Here I take responsibility. Here I am." It's an entirely different Hineni. I don't know to how many of us, if ever, there will come a call that sets us forth out of our sleep unto an unbelievable mission, or that we would hear the voice of God restraining us from doing an unspeakable act. But each of us, and all the time, are being addressed by others. Our son, our neighbor, our wives, our husbands, our parents, our children, always ask, and always we too need to say, "Hineni, here I am for you. Here I am with all that I can be. Here I take my stand. Here I am responsible. Here I am answering." All existence, all life, is question after question addressed to each of us. And each of us, following Abraham's example, in this case, needs to say, "Hineni, here I am."
Here Abraham's faith journey takes on new meaning because in this moment of deep connection, Abraham finally breaks his silence that excluded even his beloved Sarah from the conversation about their son and his fate. Here, Abraham finally encounters someone in this intense and intimate space on this dangerous mission. And here, Abraham bears witness to Isaac, his son's life, his perspective, his worries, his fears. At that moment, Abraham makes a choice. He shows empathy for his son. Chevre, my friends, empathy is an extraordinary capacity, and not just for elephants. Empathy is an extraordinary set of capabilities, cognitive, emotional, moral, and transformative in character. But empathy is also an extraordinary choice to do the right thing or to do what is kind and compassionate. Choices that we are strangely not all that well wired to make. That said, we are far from hopeless or powerless. And so let us fight this Rosh Hashanah revolution. Let us practice empathy by saying or doing something when we see injustice. Empathy is a road to justice. Empathy is a path to healing. We need more of both for this new year and beyond. May it be your will, God. Ken Yehi Ratzon.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'v'nevi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek.
There was a man from Ramathaim of the Zuphites in the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, son of Jeroham, son of Elihu, son of Tohu, son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. He had 2 wives, one named Hannah and the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah was childless. This man used to go up from his town every year to worship and to offer sacrifice to Adonai of hosts at Shiloh. Hophni and Phinehas, the 2 sons of Eli, were priests of Adonai there. One such day, Elkanah offered a sacrifice. He used to give portions to his wife Peninnah and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he would give 1 portion only, though Hannah was his favorite, for the Lord had closed her womb. But to Hannah he would give 1 portion only, though Hannah was his favorite, for Adonai had closed her womb. Moreover, her rival, to make her miserable, would taunt her that Adonai had closed her womb. This happened year after year. Every time she went up to the house of Adonai, the other would taunt her, so that she would weep and would not eat. Her husband Elkanah said to her, "Hannah, why are you crying, and why aren't you eating? Why are you so sad? Am I not more devoted to you than 10 sons?" After they had eaten and drunk at Shiloh, Hannah rose. The priest Eli was sitting on the seat near the doorpost of the temple of Adonai. In her wretchedness, she prayed to Adonai, weeping all the while, and she made this vow: "Adonai, if you will look upon the suffering of your maidservant and will remember me and not forget your maidservant, and if you will grant your maidservant a male child, I will dedicate him to you for all the days of my life, and no razor will ever touch his head. As she kept on praying before Adonai, Eli watched her mouth. Now Hannah was praying in her heart. Only her lips moved, but her voice could not be heard. So Eli thought that she was drunk. He said to her, "How long will you make a drunken spectacle of yourself? Sober up." And Hannah replied, "Oh no, my lord, I am a very unhappy woman. I have drunk no wine or other strong drink, but I have been pouring out my heart to Adonai. Do not take your maidservant for a worthless woman. I have only been speaking all this time out of my great anguish and distress." "Then go in peace," said Eli, "and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him." She answered, "You are most kind to your handmaid." The woman left, and she ate and was no longer downcast. The next morning they bowed before Adonai, and they went back home to Ramah. Elkanah knew his wife Hannah, and Adonai remembered her. Hannah conceived, and at the turn of the year she bore a son. She named him Samuel, meaning, "I asked Adonai for him." And when the man Elkanah and all his household were going up to offer to Adonai the annual sacrifice and his votive sacrifice, Hannah did not go up. She said to her husband, "When the child is weaned, I will bring him, for when he has appeared before Adonai, he must remain there for good." Her husband Elkanah said to her, "Do as you think best. Stay home until you have weaned him. May Adonai fulfill his word." The woman stayed home and nursed her son until she weaned him. When she had weaned him, she took him up with her, along with 3 bowls, 1 ephah of flour, and a jar of wine. And though the boy was still very young, she brought him to the house of Adonai at Shiloh. After slaughtering the bull, they brought the boy to Eli. She said, "Please, my lord, as you live, my lord, I am the woman who stood here beside you and prayed to Adonai. It was this boy I prayed for, and Adonai has granted me what I asked of him. It was this boy I prayed for, and Adonai has granted of me what I asked. I in turn hereby lend him to Adonai, for as long as he lives, he is lent to Adonai." And they bowed low there before Adonai. And Hannah prayed, "My heart exults in Adonai. I have triumphed through Adonai. I gloat over my enemies. I rejoice in your deliverance. There is no holy one like Adonai. Truly there is none beside you. There is no rock like our Adonai. Talk no more with lofty pride. Let no arrogance cross your lips. For Adonai is all-knowing. By Adonai, actions are measured. The bows of the mighty are broken, and the faltering are girded with strength. Men once sated must hire out for bread. Men once hungry hunger no more. While the barren woman bears 7, the mother of many is forlorn. Hashem deals death and gives life, casts down and raises up. Adonai makes poor and makes rich. Adonai casts down and also lifts high. Adonai raises the poor from the dust, lifts up the needy from the dunghill, setting them with nobles, granting them seats of honor. For the pillars of the earth are Adonai's, who has set the world upon them. Adonai guards the steps of the faithful, but the wicked perish in darkness, for not by strength shall all prevail. The foes of Adonai shall be shattered. Adonai will thunder against them in the heavens and will judge the ends of the earth. Adonai will give power to the king and triumph to his anointed one.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol haolamim, tzadik bechol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer ve'oseh, ha'medaber u'mekayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek. Ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu, v'ne'emanim devarecha, ודבר אחד מדבריך אחור לא ישוב ריקם, כי אל מלך נאמן ורחמן אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הנאמן בכל דבריו. רחם על ציון, כי היא בית חיינו, ולעלובת נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו. ברוך אתה אדוני, משמח ציון בבניה. שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו, באליהו הנביא עבדך, ובמלכות בית דוד משיחך. במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו, על כיסו לא ישב זר, ולא ינחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו, כי בשם קדשך נשבעת לו, שלא יכפה נרו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן דוד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום הזיכרון הזה, שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו, לכבוד ולתפארת על הכל אדוני אלוהינו. אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד, ודברך אמת וקיים לעד. ברוך אתה אדוני מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל ביום הזיכרון.
Shalom, Good Yontif, Shana Tova. I'm Leah Jones, my pronouns are she, her, and I am honored to speak to you as the president of Emmanuel Congregation near the start of my second year in this role. As I stand in an empty synagogue in August, I'm reminded of the stories about Jewish food that so many people told from the Bima on Yom Kippur afternoons. Year after year, when given the opportunity to reflect on the question, what does Judaism mean to me? Nearly every person mentioned a recipe, if not a full menu, a cornucopia of Ashkenazi and Sephardic delights passed from generation to generation. The discussion of food made our stomachs grumble louder during the fast. Your physical absence today makes the sanctuary rumble with silence, but it also brings to bear the prayers passed from generation to generation in these rooms. In the Talmud, the sages argued about fasting during Rosh Hashanah and the days of awe that followed. Rav Hai Gaon, a 9th century sage, wrote that it is better not to fast on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, since the early leaders of Israel said, "Go, eat sweet food and drink sweet drinks." Many elevate silence, fasting, and other forms of asceticism, but the rabbis say that Rosh Hashanah is for feasting on sweet things. We aren't silent. We actively wish each other Shana Tova, may you be inscribed in the book of life, happiness and health to one another. So please, take a moment and send a Shana Tova through the chat or a quick text message. It's okay. I'll wait while you share a quick greeting. This High Holy Day season is not less than those that came before or a great pause button on our tradition, but instead it is a rapid reinterpretation of what we hold dear when we cannot physically hold our loved ones. Last year, I shared my reflections on a summer trip to Poland and the silence. The silence is what a young generation of Jews in Poland called the family and community secrets of their childhood, of growing up in a communist state without knowledge of their family's Jewish roots. I was worried about how silent our building had become after CJDS moved out. Clearly, I did not know what silence meant or how we would face the crisis of this spring. Here are some of the ways we faced the pandemic and turned silence into sound and growth for our congregation. We learned how to live stream services, first from my mobile phone in the chapel and quickly from Zoom to YouTube. We've made mistakes, but week after week, our clergy have led services from their basement offices, and we've seen familiar names in the chat. I imagine your faces when you say hello, and I try so hard to correctly pronounce names that you add for Kaddish and Mi Shebeirach. We called every member of our congregation, some of you more than once, and quickly created a Hesed committee to manage the immediate needs of our congregants in the earliest days of the shutdown. We endeavored to ensure that we found ways to connect people on the phone, with groceries, or on Zoom. We transitioned the religious school to a combination of online platforms and got serious about bringing Mandy Herlick to run the religious school this year. Mandy is a reform educator who found a powerful new curriculum written for the online world we are living in at this moment. We hope to bring her on full-time next year. We learned how to honor those who died this summer with small graveside services and online Shiva calls. We lost members of our synagogue family, and our country has lost scores of people. Each person was B'Tselem Elohim, made in the image of God. We called the JCC and we said, this summer's gonna be weird. Do you have all the space you need for camp? And less than a month later, JCC Camp Apache Northside pulled up with two trucks worth of tents, tables, and art supplies to move in for the summer. The camp was able to complete their 5-week masked session without a single COVID case. We followed through on our plan to hire an executive director and welcome Sarah Beth Salzman back to our community. Within her first week, she was making decisions and freeing me to focus on strategic governance instead of task management. I am so grateful to have her back at Emmanuel and know that you have already felt the difference she has made. Finally, we continued working on our strategic plan. So you've heard this work called 5959 or the Blue House Initiative. These committees explored what we could do if we expanded our mission to be more outward-facing. Richard Reeder's work on our speaker series gave us a taste, along with our night of storytelling about immigration last fall, the Passover escape room, and our participation in Open House Chicago when 1,000 people came through our doors to see what Emmanuel Congregation was all about. We have such big ideas. We want to compete on a national stage with 6th and I in Washington, D.C., or 92nd Street Y in New York, but our volunteers are tapped out. We knew that the only way to make this vision possible was with a program director. I am pleased to announce that we have been given a gift to cover the salary of a program director dedicated to this strategic plan, and that we will begin the search soon. We have also been issued a challenge. The Tawani Foundation has offered us a $50,000 match grant for dollars raised to support this strategic plan. The details of the challenge grant will be emailed to you next week. COVID has been so hard and has made things so silent. And that silence feels like our rumbling stomachs on Yom Kippur. and aching to break fast with a bagel and lox, and then a Chinese buffet. But the Yom Kippur fast allows our minds to wander through the reflections of the year. It is the deadline to make amends and a calendar appointment to revisit our traditions, to determine what is still meaningful to us. I don't need to be in this building with you to love our community. I hope that Emmanuel Congregation has sustained our shared Jewish tradition for you during this strange year, and that you will help sustain our vision in the coming years. Please look for information on the challenge grant in your inbox, and thank you for joining us today. I'll see you in chat, on Zoom, and God willing, in our building. Remember that the sages wanted us to celebrate with sweet words. Please take time this week to pick up the phone and share the sweet words of Rosh Hashanah with someone who has been on your mind. May we each be sealed in the book of life. Shana Tova.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. ונאמר היה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד.
As we read the following names for Kaddish, please share additional names to the chat.
Franklin Axe, George Bernstein, Maurice Bernstein, Daisy Borer Brash, Harris Bush, Raymond Chait, Lester Edinger, Harry Gilbert, Cynthia Goldstein, Joseph Goodman, Gussie Jacobson, Betty Kaplan, Lucille Carton, Miriam Kleinberg, Lena Lehman, Jack Malavani,
Dwight D. Manis, Nancy Martin, Morris Milhouse, Kate Minkus, David Morris, Emil J. Pollock, Mendel Posen, Edward Price, David M. Riff, Lola Salinas, Hartley M. Sangerman, Estelle Schaefer, Diane Schatz, Ruth Slutsky, Stephen Snyderman, Captain Jerome Solomon, MC,
Ella P. Sommerfeld, Edith Wallach, James Gillis Whitney, Fred Wadaka, and in recent days, Noreen Alper, Sharon Vadabancourt, Tanya Berman Barliant, Betty Cohen, Alan Tellisman.
We rise in body and or spirit and or as is your custom. for the Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbi. Be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute. B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye decho beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uv'izman kariv ve'emru amen. Yehe shmei Rabba mevorach leolam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei dekudsha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma ve'meru amen. Yehe shlama Rabba min Shemaya v'chayim Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'meru amen. Ose shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'meru amen. May the source of peace bestow peace on all who mourn, and may we be a source of comfort to all who are bereaved. And we say, Amen.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vanenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vanenu, Ki en banu maasim, Aseh imanu, Tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, Tzedaka v'chesed, V'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu v'anenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu v'anenu, Ki en banu maasim. Yagid olam